The crystal chandelier sparkled above our table as I smoothed the cream silk dress I'd saved 6 months to buy. My 35th birthday dinner should have been perfect. My sister Judy sat across from me scrolling through her phone while her 19-year-old daughter Paige texted beside her. My mother Margaret beamed at them both, then glanced at me with that familiar look of mild disappointment. The waiter brought out my cake candles flickering in the dimmed light of the upscale restaurant. I closed my eyes wishing for something I couldn't name when I felt the cold splash against my chest. I gasped, eyes flying open to see Paige holding her empty wine glass, her perfect lips curled into a smirk. "Now you look as cheap as you really are," she said. And my mother laughed. I've always been the responsible one in our family. While Judy partied through college on my dime, I built my small graphic design business from scratch. Our father left when we were teenagers, and someone had to step up. That someone was me. My sister is 3 years younger, beautiful and charming, the kind of person who enters a room and immediately becomes its center. I'm the practical one, the planner, the one who makes sure bills get paid. "It's just a dress, Anne. Don't be so sensitive," my mother said after Paige's wine attack, dabbing half-heartedly at my ruined silk with a cocktail napkin. The dress cost me $800, nearly a week's income. I'd wanted to look special for once, to feel beautiful on my birthday. Judy didn't even look up from her phone. "Yeah, Anne. It's not like it was designer or anything, but it was. I'd saved for months eating ramen noodles and skipping movies with friends. Not that they would understand sacrifice. I've been supporting Judy financially for years. I co-signed her mortgage when her credit was too poor to qualify. I added her as an authorized user on my premium credit card for emergencies only. And 3 years ago, I bought Paige a car for her 16th birthday, a sensible Honda Civic that I'm still making payments on. The restaurant manager offered me a club soda for the stain. I excused myself to the bathroom, tears threatening to spill. In the harsh fluorescent light, I stared at the red wine, seeping into the delicate fabric, spreading like a wound. I called my best friend Sarah from the bathroom stall. "They did it again," I whispered. "Oh, Anne, just leave. It's your birthday. Come over here instead." But I couldn't leave. That's not what the responsible sister does. The responsible sister pays the check, drives her drunk sister and niece home, makes sure her mother takes her evening medication. What no one at that table knew was that I've been paying my mother's medical bills for the past 5 years. She has a heart condition requiring expensive medication, and her insurance doesn't cover everything. Judy told her I was too cheap to help, so Mom never asked me directly. Instead, I arranged it all with the hospital billing department, making monthly payments that stretched my budget to breaking. After my husband Jack died from cancer 3 years ago, things got even tighter. The medical bills nearly bankrupted me, and grief made it hard to focus on work. My client list dwindled as I struggled to meet deadlines. Still, I kept making those payments for Mom, kept that credit card open for Judy, kept paying for Paige's car insurance. Jack would have told me to stand up for myself. "You can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm," he used to say. In the bathroom mirror, I wiped my tears and straightened my shoulders. The woman looking back at me was tired, with shadows under her eyes and a stained designer dress. But something had changed in her expression. Something had hardened. I walked out of the restaurant before dessert was served, the night air cool against my damp dress. I heard laughter from the parking lot and instinctively stepped behind a decorative pillar. My mother, sister, and niece stood by Judy's Mercedes, the one she claimed she could barely afford payments on. "Did you see her face?" Paige was saying, mimicking my shocked expression to peals of laughter from Judy. "That dress was so tacky anyway," Judy replied. "Trying to look rich when we all know her business is failing." "I don't know why she always has to make such a fuss," my mother sighed. "She's always been jealous of you, Judy." I froze, the blood rushing in my ears, drowning out whatever they said next. Jealous I'd given up a scholarship to a prestigious art school to work full-time after Dad left. I'd postponed my dreams so Judy could pursue hers. I'd emptied my savings to help with their down payment when they bought their house in that exclusive neighborhood. I drove home in silence, the weight of their betrayal pressing against my chest, heavier than the wine stain. My small bungalow welcomed me with quiet dignity. Jack and I had bought it together, dreaming of filling it with children. Now it was just me and our cat Pepper, who greeted me with an indignant meow at being left alone on my birthday. "I know, buddy," I whispered, scratching behind his ears. "I'm sorry." I kicked off my heels and opened my laptop. It was time to see exactly how much my generosity was costing me. I pulled up my bank statements, credit card bills, and payment records. The numbers made me dizzy. In the past year alone, I had spent $23,000 on my mother's medical expenses. The credit card Judy used showed charges from restaurants I'd never been to boutiques. I couldn't afford even a weekend spa retreat just last month. Altogether, she'd spent over $25,000 of my money in the past 6 months, money I didn't have to spare. But the real shock came when I checked the tracking app I'd installed on Paige's car. It was a condition of me buying it for her, a way to make sure she was safe. The location history showed frequent late-night trips to addresses in wealthy neighborhoods, with stops of exactly 30 to 45 minutes. A quick search of some of those addresses revealed they were popular party spots for the college crowd. I opened social media and searched Paige's name along with rides and parties. There it was on an account she didn't think I knew about. Need a safe ride to Lakeside Party? Text Paige. $20 each way, no questions asked. My niece was using the car I was still paying for to run a lucrative side business as a party driver, something explicitly forbidden in our agreement. She was making hundreds of dollars a weekend, while I worked overtime to make the car payments. The irony was bitter on my tongue. They thought I was cheap. I had been bankrupting myself to fund their comfortable lives while they mocked me behind my back. And tonight, they hadn't even tried to hide their contempt. I sat in my quiet living room, Jack's photograph watching me from the mantel. "What would you do?" I asked his smiling face. I could almost hear his answer. "Enough is enough, Annie." Morning light streamed through my kitchen window as I made coffee, my mind clearer than it had been in years. I hadn't slept much, but I had made some decisions. I wasn't going to enable their behavior anymore. It was time to take back control of my life. First, I called the credit card company. "I'd like to cancel the additional card on my account," I told the customer service representative. "The card issued to Judy Marshall." "Yes, that's correct." "And would you like to report any fraudulent charges?" I hesitated. Were they fraudulent? I had given her permission to use the card for emergencies, but spa weekends and shopping sprees weren't emergencies. "No," I said finally. "But I would like to close that card immediately." Next, I called my friend Taylor, who happened to be a lawyer. We'd been friends since college, and she'd been warning me about my family's financial dependence for years. "About time," she said when I explained what I was doing. "What about the car?" "That's trickier. I'm still making payments, and it's registered in my name, but Paige has been driving it for years. It's your car, Anne. Legally, you can take it back any time. She has no claim to it, especially if she's violated your agreement by using it commercially." I sipped my coffee, considering. She's still in school. She needs transportation. Taylor's sigh crackled through the phone. "There's this magical invention called a bus, or Uber, which she can pay for with all that ride money she's been collecting." She was right. It was time for some tough love. "If you want," Taylor continued, "I can draw up a formal letter explaining the repossession. Make it all official and scary." "No need," I replied. "I have the spare key. I'll just take it back." "Good girl. Want me to come with you?" "No, I need to do this myself." We made plans to meet for lunch later in the week, and I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was standing up for myself. My phone rang just as I was hanging up with Taylor. Judy's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "What the hell?" "Anne." Her voice was shrill with indignation. "I'm standing at Nordstrom trying to buy a purse, and they say my card is declined." "It's not your card, Judy. It's mine. And I canceled it this morning. Because of last night." "Are you serious?" "It was just a joke. Paige didn't mean anything by it." "A joke. Ruining my birthday and a dress I saved for months to buy was a joke." "God, you're so dramatic. It's always about you, isn't it, poor Anne? So put upon, so unappreciated." I felt a familiar surge of guilt, the need to apologize and make things right. But then I remembered their laughter in the parking lot. "I can't do this anymore, Judy. I can't keep supporting you financially while you treat me like garbage." "Fine. Be that way. I'll just tell Mom how you're punishing me. Because you can't take a joke. She already thinks you don't care about her. Wait till she hears how you cut me off when I was trying to buy something for her birthday next month." Her words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean she thinks I don't care about her?" Judy's laugh was ugly. "You never visit, you never call, you never offer to help with her medical bills. I'm the one who has to deal with everything while you live your selfish little life. That's not true, I whispered. I've been paying her medical bills for 5 years. There was a pause. What are you talking about? I arranged it directly with the hospital. Every month I pay $450 toward her care. You're lying, Judy said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. Check with billing if you don't believe me. And while you're fact-checking, maybe explain to our extended family that I haven't been refusing to help with Mom's care like you've been telling everyone. The silence, on the other end of the line, stretched out. You've been turning them against me. I continued, my voice stronger now. Making me out to be some heartless daughter while you play the hero. But the truth is, I've been supporting this entire family while you spend my money and mock me behind my back. And I didn't know about the medical bills. I swear. Save it, Judy. I'm done. I hung up my hands, shaking. This confrontation had been building for years, and now that it had happened, I felt both terrified and exhilarated. But I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It was 4:30 in the morning when my alarm went off. Outside the world was still dark houses silent along my street. I dressed quickly in black jeans and a dark sweater, feeling oddly like a cat burglar, despite knowing what I was about to do was perfectly legal. The spare key to Paige's car sat heavy in my palm. I'd kept it in my desk drawer all these years, never thinking I'd need to use it. Now I slipped it into my pocket along with the letter I'd composed explaining why I was taking back the car. The drive to Judy's neighborhood took 20 minutes, the streets empty at this hour. Their house loomed large and imposing at the end of a cul-de-sac, windows dark. I parked a block away and walked, staying close to the shadows of trees lining the street. Paige's Honda sat in the driveway, gleaming under a security light. I approached quietly, heart pounding. This was my car. I was still making payments on it. I had every right to take it back. Still, I felt like I was crossing some invisible line, changing our family dynamic forever. I slid into the driver's seat, the familiar smell of vanilla air freshener mixed with something else, something sickly sweet. There were fast food wrappers on the floor and a collection of parking passes on the dashboard, evidence of her unauthorized business ventures. The engine started with a quiet purr, and I backed slowly out of the driveway, headlights off, until I reached the main road. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. I drove directly to my house and parked the Honda in my garage where it would stay until I decided what to do with it. Back inside, I sealed the letter explaining my actions in an envelope and addressed it to Paige. I drove back to Judy's house as dawn was breaking, slipping the envelope into their mailbox before heading home again. The letter was firm, but not unkind, explaining that the car was being repossessed due to violation of our agreement about its use, particularly the commercial driving service she'd been running. My next task was more difficult. I gathered all the documentation of my mother's medical payments, scanning the receipts and bank statements into a single file. I added a brief note explaining that I had been quietly helping all along despite what Judy might have said. I sent the file to my mother's email with the subject line, "The Truth." Then I waited. The storm broke around 7:55 in the morning, 5 minutes later than I had expected. My phone rang, Paige's name flashing on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. Then Judy called. Then my mother. Text messages flooded in, ranging from confused to furious. From Paige, "Where's my car?" From Judy, "What have you done?" From Mom, "Please call me Anne. We need to talk." I silenced my phone and made another cup of coffee. They would have to wait. For once, they would have to operate on my timeline, not theirs. Around 10 o'clock, there was a knock at my door. I peered through the peephole, surprised to see my mother standing on the porch alone. She looked smaller somehow, her shoulders hunched against the morning chill. I opened the door. "Anne," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you were the one paying my bills." I stepped aside to let her in. "Come in, Mom. We have a lot to talk about." She sat on my couch, hands twisting in her lap. "Judy told me you couldn't afford to help. She said you barely called because you were too busy with your own life. And you believed her without ever asking me directly." She looked down. "She's always been so convincing. And you were dealing with Jack's illness and then his death. I didn't want to burden you." I felt a surge of anger quickly tempered by fatigue. So instead, you let me think you believed I was cheap and selfish. You laughed when Paige ruined my birthday and my dress. I thought it was just harmless teasing. I didn't realize. She trailed off, tears welling in her eyes. I've been so blind, Anne. So blind to how Judy has been manipulating all of us. Before I could respond, my phone rang again. This time it was a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Is this Anne Marshall? A male voice asked. Yes. Who is this? This is Officer Daniels, with the Pine Ridge Police Department. We've received a report of a stolen vehicle registered to you, a Honda Civic. The complainant is a Paige Marshall. I almost laughed. Officer, that car is registered in my name. I'm still making payments on it. I used my key to move it to my property this morning. How can I steal my own car? There was a pause. Ma'am, are you saying you're the legal owner of the vehicle in question? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I purchased it for my niece to use, but it's always been my car legally. I see. And do you have documentation to that effect? I certainly do. After promising to email the officer copies of the registration and loan paperwork, I hung up. My mother was staring at me, mouth slightly open. Judy called the police on you. No, Paige did, I corrected her. But it doesn't matter. The car is legally mine. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized. Dave, Judy's husband. Anne, what the hell is going on? He demanded when I answered. Judy's hysterical. Paige is screaming about her car being stolen, and the police just called to confirm you own the vehicle. It's a long story, Dave. But the short version is that I'm no longer financing your family's lifestyle. He was quiet for a moment. What do you mean, financing our lifestyle? The credit card Judy's been using. That's my card, Dave. The car Paige drives, that's my car. I'm also the one who's been paying Mom's medical bills, despite what Judy's been telling everyone. Another long silence. I had no idea, he finally said, his voice hollow. Judy told me her name was on your card because she helped you qualify for it with her better credit score. She said Paige's car was from money her grandparents left her. It was my turn to be shocked. None of that is true, Dave. Jesus Christ, he muttered. This explains so much. What do you mean? He sighed heavily. Anne, there's something you should know about your sister. The family meeting was my idea. After my conversation with Dave, I knew we needed to clear the air, all of us together. I chose my home as neutral territory, setting up chairs in my living room like some kind of intervention, which I suppose it was. My mother arrived first, still shaken from our morning conversation. She sat quietly, glancing around at the photos of Jack and me that lined my walls. You were so happy together, she murmured. We were. I agreed, placing a mug of tea in front of her. He would have wanted me to stand up for myself. He always said I let people take advantage. He was right, she said softly. I'm so sorry, Anne. Dave arrived next, looking haggard. Judy wasn't with him. She refused to come, he explained, accepting the coffee I offered. She says you're just trying to humiliate her. That's not my intention, I said. I just want the truth out in the open. He nodded grimly. The truth? Yeah, we could use some of that. We sat in awkward silence until the doorbell rang again. This time it was Judy, her eyes red-rimmed, but her posture defiant. Let's get this over with, she said, brushing past me. I had just closed the door when we heard the screech of tires in my driveway. Paige burst in without knocking, her face contorted with rage. Where's my car? She demanded. It's in the garage, I replied calmly. And it's not your car. It never was. You can't just take it. I need it for school, for work. Funny you should mention work, I said, gesturing for her to sit down. Let's talk about your little side business driving drunk college kids to parties. Her face paled. That's not true. I have the GPS records page, and I found your social media accounts advertising your services. $20 each way. No questions asked, right? Judy jumped to her daughter's defense. She was just trying to make some extra money. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is that it violated our agreement, put her at risk, and exposed me to potential liability since the car is in my name, I explained. Not to mention the fact that she's been making hundreds of dollars a week while I'm still paying for the car, the insurance, and the maintenance. Dave's head swiveled toward his daughter. You've been charging people for rides in a car your aunt is paying for and keeping all the money for yourself? Paige crossed her arms, suddenly looking very young and very caught. So what Aunt Anne can afford it. She's just cheap. Is that what you think? I asked, opening my laptop. Let me show you all exactly what my financial situation looks like. I projected my bank statements and budget onto the TV screen. My modest income from the graphic design business. The monthly payments for Mom's medical care. The car payments for Paige's Honda. The credit card statements showing Judy's extravagant spending. I make $58,000 a year, I explained. After taxes, rent, utilities, and my own basic needs, I have very little left. Yet somehow I've been supporting all of you. My mother had begun to cry quietly. Dave stared at the floor. Paige looked uncomfortable but still defiant. And Judy. Judy looked trapped. You don't understand, she began. We've had some financial setbacks. Dave's business isn't doing well, and college expenses for Paige are so high. Dave's head snapped up. That's not true, and you know it, Judy. My business is fine, and we have a college fund for Paige that would cover community college easily. You're the one who insisted she go to that expensive private university. Well, we have to keep up appearances, Judy protested. What would people think if she went to community college when all her friends are at prestigious schools? They'd think she was being fiscally responsible, I suggested. Something this family could use a lesson in. Judy's face hardened. Easy for you to say. You have no idea what it's like trying to maintain our lifestyle. The pressure, the expectations. No one is forcing you to live beyond your means, I pointed out. That's a choice you've made. A choice you've been using my money to support. It wasn't like that, Judy insisted. I was going to pay you back. I just needed some time to get back on my feet after some investments didn't work out. Dave laughed harshly. Investments? Is that what we're calling your gambling now? The room fell silent. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Paige stared at her father in shock. And I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Gambling? I repeated. Judy, you have a gambling problem. Dave ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't going to bring it up like this, but since we're all laying our cards on the table, yes, your sister has a serious gambling addiction. I discovered it 6 months ago when our bank accounts were suddenly empty. She'd been playing online poker, betting on sports, hitting the casino when she said she was going to yoga. Judy's face had gone white. Dave, don't. Don't what? Tell the truth. I'm done covering for you, Judy. I've been planning to file for divorce for months now. The only reason I haven't is because I've been trying to figure out how to protect Paige from the fallout. Paige made a small wounded sound. Divorce, Dad, no. I'm sorry, honey, Dave said, his voice gentler. But your mother has put us in debt to the tune of nearly $200,000. She's taken out loans I knew nothing about, maxed out credit cards in my name. And, apparently, he added, looking at me, she's been using Anne as her personal ATM as well. Judy jumped to her feet. This is all Anne's fault. If she hadn't canceled my card and taken Paige's car, none of this would be happening. No, I said firmly. This is happening because of choices you made, Judy. I'm just finally refusing to enable those choices. You think you're so perfect, Judy spat. So responsible. So morally superior. But you're just a sad, lonely widow who has nothing better to do than meddle in other people's lives. At least, I have a family. The room gasped collectively at her cruelty. Even Paige looked shocked. Mom, she said quietly. That was too far. I felt a strange calm descend over me. You know what, Judy? You're right about one thing. I am alone. Jack is gone, and I can't change that. But I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who take advantage of my generosity while mocking me behind my back. My mother stood up, her small frame shaking with emotion. Judy Catherine Marshall, I have never been so ashamed of you in all my life. Your sister has been quietly supporting this family for years while you've been lying and stealing from her. Judy's face crumpled. Mom, you don't understand. I need help. I can't stop. I've tried, but every time I lose, I just need one more chance to win it back. And suddenly everything shifted. My anger didn't disappear, but it was joined by something else, pity. My sister wasn't just selfish and entitled. She was sick. She needed help. not just accountability. Judy, I said more gently, how long has this been going on? She sank back into her chair, defeat written in every line of her body. Since Dad left. Remember how he used to gamble? How excited he'd get about his systems? I thought I could be smarter about it. Win where he lost. Prove I was better than him somehow. Our father's gambling had contributed to the financial stress that eventually broke up our parents' marriage. How had I never seen that Judy had inherited not just his charm, but his demons as well? Dave stood up. I'm sorry, Anne. For everything. For not seeing what was happening, for letting Judy take advantage of you. But I can't do this anymore. I've already consulted with a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce next week. Judy began to sob in earnest now. Please, Dave. I'll get help. I promise. Don't leave me. I've heard that before, he said wearily. After the first time you emptied our savings. After you took out a second mortgage without telling me. After you borrowed from Paige's college fund. I can't trust you anymore, Judy. I'm sorry. He turned to me. Anne, I had no idea about the car or the credit card. I'll make sure you get paid back for everything, even if I have to sell the house to do it. Dad, where will we live? Paige asked suddenly, looking very young and frightened. We'll figure it out, honey, he assured her. Maybe it's time for that community college option after all. The family meeting had turned into something I never expected, a moment of painful but necessary truth. As Dave led a still-sobbing Judy out to their car with Paige following silently behind them, I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness for what my family had become. And yet beneath that sadness was something else, the first fragile shoots of hope that perhaps with the truth finally in the open we could begin to heal. 3 weeks passed. Autumn arrived in earnest, painting the trees in my neighborhood gold and crimson. My life had settled into a new rhythm, quieter and more focused on rebuilding my business. I'd taken on 2 new clients and was working on a rebranding project that challenged me creatively for the first time in years. My mother had moved temporarily into my spare bedroom while we rebuilt our relationship. It was awkward at first, decades of misunderstandings, standing between us like a wall. But slowly, brick by brick, we began to dismantle it through honest conversations over morning coffee and evening meals. I should have seen what was happening, she said one night as we washed dishes together. I let Judy convince me of things that didn't even make sense because it was easier than facing the truth. We all missed it, Mom, I replied. Even Dave, who lived with her. But I believed the worst about you. My own daughter. I'll never forgive myself for that. I passed her a plate to dry. I'm not looking for your guilt, Mom. Just your understanding going forward. She nodded, wiping the plate with careful attention. You remind me of your father sometimes, she said unexpectedly. Not the gambling or the running away, the strength. He had that before the addiction took over. The ability to see things clearly and make hard decisions. It was the first time she'd compared me to my father in a positive way. I felt a surprising warmth at the thought that I might have inherited something good from him after all. Dave called regularly with updates. He'd filed for divorce as planned, and Judy had moved out of their house into a small apartment. The most surprising development was that she'd checked herself into a treatment program for gambling addiction the day after our confrontation. The therapist says it's common for addicts to hit rock bottom before they're ready to change, Dave explained. Losing the credit card, having her financial situation exposed to everyone, me finally following through with the divorce threat. I think it was the wake-up call she needed. Do you think she'll stick with it? I asked, not wanting to sound skeptical, but remembering Judy's pattern of making promises she couldn't keep. I don't know, he admitted. The counselor says gambling addiction has one of the highest relapse rates, but this is the first time she's acknowledged she has a problem and sought help on her own. That's something. Paige was another story. She'd been forced to drop out of her expensive private university mid-semester when the truth about their finances came to light. Dave had enrolled her in the local community college for the spring term, but for now she was working part-time at a coffee shop and living with her father in their soon-to-be-sold house. I hadn't spoken to her directly since the family meeting, though Dave said she asked about me occasionally. I still had her car in my garage, unsure what to do with it. Legally, it was mine. Practically, it was gathering dust. I considered selling it to recoup some of my losses, but something held me back. My business was showing signs of recovery. Word of mouth had brought me several new clients, and I'd begun updating my portfolio with fresh work. One Friday morning, I received an email that made my heart race. Thompson & Gray, a prestigious marketing firm in the city, wanted to meet with me about handling design work for one of their major clients. This could be huge, Mom, I explained over lunch. They're one of the top firms in the state. Their retainer alone would solve most of my financial problems. I'm so proud of you, honey, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You've worked so hard for this. The meeting was set for Monday morning. I spent the weekend preparing my portfolio, selecting my outfit, rehearsing my pitch. For the first time in years, I felt professionally excited, energized by possibility. Monday dawned clear and bright. I dressed carefully in a tailored navy suit, one of the few professional pieces I'd kept after downsizing my wardrobe to save money. The drive into the city was smooth, my confidence building with each mile. The Thompson & Gray offices occupied the top floor of a sleek downtown building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered spectacular views of the city skyline. I was shown into a conference room where 3 executives waited to review my work. 2 hours later, I walked out with a contract in my bag and a smile I couldn't suppress. They hadn't just liked my work, they loved it. The retainer they offered was double what I'd expected, with potential for additional projects if the first campaign went well. I was floating as I drove home already, mentally allocating the income, catching up on my mortgage, rebuilding my emergency fund, perhaps finally taking that web design course I'd been eyeing to expand my services. I pulled into my driveway, still grinning, and was surprised to see a familiar figure sitting on my front steps. Judy. My elation dimmed slightly as I parked and approached her. She looked different somehow, smaller in jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, her face free of makeup. "Hi, Anne," she said, standing awkwardly. "I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail." I realized I'd silenced my phone for the meeting and forgotten to turn the ringer back on. "I had a business meeting," I explained, unlocking the front door. "Do you want to come in?" She followed me inside, her eyes taking in the changes to my living room. Mom had added touches of her own, a crocheted throw on the couch family photos I hadn't displayed in years, a vase of fresh flowers on the coffee table. "Mom's living with you," she stated rather than asked. "Temporarily," I confirmed. "While we figure things out." Judy nodded, still standing, even after I sat down. "I'm 90 days sober," she said abruptly. "From gambling, I mean. They give us chips like in AA. I got mine yesterday." "Congratulations," I said, meaning it. "That's a big accomplishment." "It doesn't feel like much compared to the damage I've done." She finally sat down, perched on the edge of an armchair. "Part of the recovery program is making amends to people we've hurt. You're at the top of my list, Anne." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to make it easy for her to say it was all water under the bridge. But another part, the part that had finally learned to stand up for myself, knew that quick forgiveness, without accountability, wouldn't help either of us. "I appreciate that," I said carefully. "But amends aren't just words, Judy. They're actions." "I know." She pulled an envelope from her purse and placed it on the coffee table. "This is the beginning. It's not much, just $3,000 from selling my jewelry. But I'm going to pay back everything I took from you, however long it takes." I stared at the envelope, emotion welling in my throat. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about her acknowledging what she'd done, taking concrete steps to make it right. "I've also been going to therapy twice a week," she continued. "Turns out the gambling was just a symptom. I've got a lot of stuff to work through about Dad, about always feeling like I wasn't good enough on my own merits." "I didn't know you felt that way," I said softly. She gave a small, sad laugh. "How could you? I never told anyone. I just tried to fill the hole with shopping and status and winning at the tables. And when that didn't work, I blamed everyone else for my unhappiness. Especially you, because you seemed to have it all together even when life threw terrible things at you. I thought of Jack, of the crushing loneliness after his death of the nights. I cried myself to sleep. I didn't have it all together, Judy. I was just better at hiding my struggles. I see that now." She hesitated, then added, "Dave and I are trying counseling. He's postponed filing the divorce papers while I work on my recovery. He says he can't make any promises, but he's willing to see if I can change." That's generous of him. More than I deserve, she agreed. But I'm grateful for the chance. She took a deep breath. There's something else I came to talk to you about. It's Paige. I tensed slightly. What about her? She's struggling. The community college doesn't start until January, and the coffee shop job barely covers her gas money. Dave's cutting back on expenses to pay off our debt, so there's no extra for her spending money or clothes or anything. That sounds like a normal college student experience to me, I pointed out. Most kids her age have part-time jobs and budget constraints. I know, and it's probably good for her, Judy acknowledged. But she's having a hard time getting to work without a car. The bus route requires 2 transfers and adds an hour each way to her commute. And there it was. The real reason for her visit. You want me to give her back the car, I stated flatly. Judy shook her head quickly. No, not give it back. That's not fair to you. But maybe sell it to her. She's saved up about $2,000 from the coffee shop. It's not nearly what the car is worth, I know, but it would be a start. She could make payments to you for the rest. I leaned back, considering. Has Paige sent you to ask for this, or is this your idea? Judy looked down at her hands. She doesn't know I'm here. She's too proud to ask you for anything after how she behaved. But I've seen her waiting at that bus stop in the rain and... She trailed off, then met my eyes directly. The truth is I'm trying to teach her something. I'm only just learning myself that actions have consequences, but that doesn't mean there's no path to making things right. I was saved from responding by the sound of my front door opening. My mother walked in grocery bags in hand and stopped short at the sight of Judy. Oh, she said. I didn't know you were coming over today. An awkward silence fell. Mom and Judy hadn't spoken since the family meeting. I stood up to take the grocery bags, grateful for the momentary distraction. I was just leaving Judy, said, rising from her chair. I just wanted to give Anne this. She gestured to the envelope still sitting on the coffee table. Mom looked from the envelope to Judy, understanding dawning in her eyes. That's very responsible of you, she said, her voice careful but not cold. It's a start, Judy replied. She turned to me. Think about what I said about Paige. No pressure, just consider it. After she left, Mom helped me unpack the groceries in silence. Finally, she asked, what did she want you to consider about Paige? I explained Judy's proposal about the car. Mom listened without interrupting, her face thoughtful. What are you thinking of doing? She asked when I'd finished. I shrugged. I don't know, part of me thinks Paige needs to learn that her actions have lasting consequences. But another part remembers she's just 19 and still learning who she wants to be, Mom suggested. Exactly. Mom put away the last of the groceries and turned to face me. You know what I think? I think you need to do whatever. Allows you to look at yourself in the mirror and feel at peace. Not what Judy wants, not what Paige deserves, not even what I think is right. What will let Anne Marshall sleep well at night knowing she's being true to herself? I smiled at her, grateful for the wisdom. When did you get so insightful? Around the time I realized how badly I'd failed both my daughters by playing favorites and avoiding hard truths, she replied. I'm trying to do better now. I hugged her impulsively, this woman who had frustrated me for so many years but who was now becoming someone new in her 70s, someone I might actually enjoy having in my life. That evening I sat at my desk with a legal pad making 2 columns, reasons to help Paige and reasons not to. The list grew on both sides, logical arguments battling with emotional responses. I was still deliberating when my phone rang. The display showed a number I didn't recognize. Hello. Aunt Anne, it's Paige. Please don't hang up. 1 year later, I stood in my kitchen arranging 36 candles on a chocolate cake. My newly renovated home gleamed around me, the open floor plan and updated fixtures, a testament to how much my life had changed in 12 months. Need any help? My mother appeared in the doorway, looking healthier than she had in years. The stress lines around her eyes had softened, and her silver hair was styled in a flattering bob that took years off her appearance. I think I've got it, I replied, lighting the last candle. Is everything ready outside? She nodded. The table is set, and the grill is heating up. Dave just texted. They're about 10 minutes away. Perfect timing. This birthday would be nothing like my last one. Instead of an uncomfortable dinner at an overpriced restaurant, I was hosting a small, intimate gathering in my backyard. Just family, and a few close friends. People who genuinely cared about me. Mom had sold her house 6 months ago, despite my protests that she didn't need to repay me for the years of medical bills. She'd been adamant using half the proceeds to write me a check and investing the rest in a small condo near my home. "I want to be close to you," she'd explained. "These last months living together have shown me how much I've missed by keeping you at arm's length all these years." I carried the cake through the French doors to the patio where Sarah was arranging presents on a side table. "Look at you hosting parties and baking cakes," she teased. "Who are you? And what have you done with my hermit friend?" "Very funny," I replied, setting down the cake. "You know very well who's responsible for this transformation." Sarah grinned. "You mean the therapist I practically had to drag you to last fall? The one you said you definitely didn't need because you were completely fine handling things on your own?" "Yes, that one." I stuck my tongue out at her. "You were right, okay. Therapy helped. A lot." The sound of a car pulling into the driveway signaled the arrival of the rest of our party. Moments later, Dave appeared around the side of the house carrying a gift bag. Behind him came Judy, looking relaxed in casual clothes, her face makeup-free but glowing with health. "Happy birthday," she called, coming forward to hug me. It still felt a little strange sometimes, this new version of my sister who asked permission before invading my space, who listened more than she talked, who seemed genuinely interested in my life without comparison or competition. "Thanks for coming," I said, returning the hug. "Are you kidding? I wouldn't miss it." She handed me a small wrapped package. "It's not much, but I thought you might like it." I unwrapped it carefully to find a silver photo frame containing a black and white photo of Judy and me as children, maybe 6 and 3, holding hands in our backyard. I remembered that day vaguely, a summer afternoon before our father's gambling tore the family apart, before responsibilities and resentments built walls between us. "Where did you find this?" I asked, touched by the simple gift. "Mom had it in an old album. I had it restored and enlarged." She squeezed my arm. "To remind us both of where we started before things got complicated." Over the past year, Judy had maintained her recovery one day at a time. There had been 2 slips, moments of weakness, when the siren call of gambling had proven too strong to resist. But each time she'd immediately confessed to her sponsor and therapist, recommitting to the program with renewed determination. She was now working part-time at her treatment center, using her own experience to help others struggling with addiction. Dave had ultimately decided not to proceed with the divorce, though they still attended couples counseling weekly. Their relationship was different now, more equal, more honest. They'd downsized to a modest townhouse, using the equity from their former home to pay off most of their debts, including what Judy owed me. "Where's Paige?" I asked, noticing her absence. "Parking the car," Dave explained. She insisted on stopping for flowers on the way over. As if on cue, Paige appeared carrying a stunning bouquet of lilies and roses. At 20, she had matured remarkably in the past year. Her once perfect manicure was now practical and short, her designer clothes replaced by sensible business casual attire, appropriate for the accounting classes she was excelling in at the State University. "Happy birthday, Aunt Anne," she said, presenting me with the flowers. "I wanted to get something special to thank you for, well, everything." I accepted the bouquet, remembering our first real conversation after that family meeting. She had called me, voice small and uncertain, to apologize for her behavior and for the cruel words at my last birthday dinner. No excuses, no blame shifting, just a simple acknowledgement of her actions and their impact on me. I had listened, still uncertain whether to trust this apparent change of heart. And then she had surprised me. "I don't expect you to give me back the car. I wouldn't if I were you. But I was wondering if you might consider selling it to me. I can pay $2,000 now, and I could make monthly payments for the rest." It was exactly what Judy had suggested, but coming directly from Paige without her mother's intervention, it had felt different, more authentic, more like a young woman taking responsibility for her future. We had worked out an arrangement she would buy the car from me for half its market value, making regular payments that she had never once missed in the past year. More importantly, she had enrolled in community college as planned, discovered an aptitude for accounting, and transferred to the State University with a partial scholarship. Now she worked part-time at an accounting firm while attending school full-time, living in a shared apartment with roommates instead of at home. The entitled teenager who had thrown wine on my dress was becoming a responsible, thoughtful young woman. "The flowers are beautiful," I told her, arranging them in a vase. but unnecessary. You've already given me the best gift. What's that? She asked. Seeing you create this amazing future for yourself. I'm really proud of you, Paige. She blushed, pleased, but embarrassed by the praise. I'm just trying to be more like you, she admitted. Strong and independent, making my own way. We gathered around the patio table, this small circle of people who had hurt each other deeply, but were finding ways to heal together. Dave grilled steaks while Mom and Sarah set out salads and sides. Judy poured drinks, careful to choose sparkling water for herself instead of wine. Paige helped me carry out the last of the serving dishes, chattering about her summer internship plans. As we ate, I looked around at their faces golden in the late afternoon Sunday. My sister, who was working daily to overcome her addiction. My niece studying hard and building a future based on her own efforts, rather than others' generosity. My mother finally seeing me clearly after decades of misconceptions. Not a perfect family, not by any means, but one that had faced its demons and chosen a different path forward. After dinner, they sang Happy Birthday, and I blew out the candles on my cake. What did you wish for? Sarah asked. I smiled, thinking of where I had been a year ago and where I was now. My business was thriving with the Thompson & Gray contract renewed and expanded. My home was paid for and beautifully renovated. Most importantly, I had reclaimed my self-respect and rebuilt relationships I had thought beyond repair. Nothing, I answered honestly. I already have everything I need. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Paige hung back, waiting until we were alone in the kitchen. Can I ask you something, Aunt Anne? Of course. She leaned against the counter, suddenly serious. That night when you took the car and canceled Mom's credit card, how did you find the courage? They'd been treating you that way for so long. What changed? I considered the question, wanting to give her an honest answer. I think I finally realized that true generosity isn't just about giving people what they want. Sometimes the most generous thing you can do is to stop enabling behavior that's harmful, even if it makes you temporarily unpopular. She nodded slowly. I hated you that morning when I woke up and the car was gone. I was so angry I could barely see straight. But now I'm grateful. If you hadn't done that, I might still be that spoiled, entitled person I was becoming. I might never have learned to stand on my own. I hugged her, this young woman who was finding her way just as I had found mine. The hardest lessons are usually the most valuable, I told her, and it's never too late to change your path. As the last guests departed and I closed the door behind them, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey from last year's disastrous birthday to this one had been difficult and painful, filled with hard truths and harder decisions. But standing up for myself hadn't just changed my life. It had created space for everyone in my family to grow and heal. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give to those we love is the courage to say no more when patterns become destructive. And sometimes the most important person to be generous with is yourself. That night, as I got ready for bed, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me was stronger than the one who had cried over a wine-stained dress a year ago. She had learned that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, but necessary, that true family supported rather than exploited each other, and that it was never too late to rewrite the story of who you were meant to be. What about you? Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to stand up to family members who were taking advantage of your generosity? How did you find the courage to set boundaries, and what happened afterward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if you found value in my journey, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories of personal growth and transformation, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to put themselves first. Sometimes. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the strength to create the life you deserve, filled with people who truly value you.